but who knows? But anyway, so Brad Olsen. Oh, I got to point to the lamp. That was a great tip. Brad Olsen is over here.
Richard Taylor's over there.
And I'm on the other side. So we're going to talk about some Final Cut Pro stuff today as I'm testing out equipment. I'm just having some fun. And we're going to talk about NAB, of course, and some other Final Cut Pro stuff, anything that comes to mind. So Brad, first off, how has the sales been going for Off the Tracks? Have they been something satisfied with them, or?
I mean, I didn't have super high expectations going into it. They're slower, but I still have a few people either renting or watching it on Amazon every day.
Wow.
So, it's kind of a steady thing. But, the first 3 months, that first 90-day window was, a bunch of sales every day, especially on VHX, and the international sales were real high. And now it's just kind of, I'll still every once in a while get a sale on iTunes, or 3 or 4 people somewhere in the world are watching it on Amazon every day.
You can see that when that happens, or you get a notification?
It tells me how many minutes are watched, but it's pretty obvious when it's like, the movie's 77 minutes long, and if I see 77 minutes or, were watched, I'm like, okay, that's probably somebody who watched the whole movie.
Right.
Or it looks like, 2 or 3 people or 4 people are watching. But, it's not, at this point, I need to get on to the next thing. I think there's still ways to draw some additional attention to it.
Sure, absolutely.
But I'm definitely not working as hard on that. The last time we were talking about YouTube, and I appreciate everybody who subscribed to the YouTube channel. That definitely gave me a boost. I now have a custom channel name on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/c/ Off the Tracks Movie, and I've got all this stuff that I'm prepping to put up on there, and that's basically where Off the Tracks is at. But I think the main thing is developing a new project, and hopefully I'll be able to get that shot and done this year. I want to do, if I play my cards right and everything works out, I want to do a narrative film this year.
Oh, really?
Not another documentary.
Okay. Well, that's documentary.
I don't have anything against another documentary, and I have some ideas for documentaries, but right now I'm working with some friends on a new script that actually it's an old script. We originally wrote it 5 years ago, but we've dusted it off and are revisiting it, and it seems like a good follow-up for Off the Tracks, but I'll let you know more about that I'm going to be talking to some people at NAB and figuring that out. So, got to move on to the next thing, mostly.
Well, everybody wants to know, of course, what about Off the Tracks 2?
Well, that was always going to be DaVinci Resolve Back on Track. Or Back on Track, the DaVinci Resolve story. No plans for that yet. I mean, if Blackmagic wants to throw some money at me, I'll be happy to half-heartedly put my effort into making a Resolve documentary, but it's not of that much interest. It just sounds funny.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing with Final Cut Pro Radio. I've been doing it for started my 4th year or 3rd year. Started my 3rd year, I think, in January. Or is it the 3rd year, I think. Yeah, 3rd year. I think. Maybe it's the 4th year. I can't keep track. But it's the same thing.
You started it in 2016.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. I think. It's 2 or 3. It's either 3 or 4 years. I started in January. But I've been, I don't do that to make money. I do it because I enjoy Final Cut, and I enjoy podcasting. I've been podcasting for my original podcast. I started before Apple had podcasting in iTunes. The March before Steve Jobs announced podcasting in iTunes he did it in June of 2005. I started the first podcast in March of 2005, and that was all hand coding. There were no podcast applications. There's a couple around, but there was no central place to get podcasts until Steve Jobs. And then my numbers went up from hundreds to thousands.
Yeah.
As soon as they added it. It was incredible. But so
Wow.
I've been doing podcasting. I like that. I mean, before that I was a ham radio operator back when I was a kid. You know, it's just something about broadcasting, you know, without getting, you know, going to a big TV studio, broadcasting to the world.
Well, I mean, definitely your shows help get Off the Tracks out there in big ways. Like I said, I saw a lot of people subscribing after I mentioned I need more subscribers, and
Sure.
now I'm figuring out what else to ask people for. Go give it a positive rating on IMDb and Amazon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Give it a thumbs up.
So if anybody's watching, that always helps. I mean, it helps to let people know that if you enjoyed the movie, it helps to spread the word, and just it's a good thing for our community. It's a good thing for Final Cut to let people know about Off the Tracks.
No, absolutely.
We put a lot of work into it, and it's got a lot of friends in it, and I actually will admit to watching my own movie last night. It was really late. I didn't know what to watch.
There you go.
And I just wanted to watch Off the Tracks. It'd been a few months since I'd watched the movie through, but and not that I haven't seen it enough times, but that's a good sign, though, that I want to watch my own movie after months. There's been lots of projects I've worked on that I'm like, I never want to see that again. So
No, I know what you mean. When I did when I used to record my own CDs, which I'm working on another one now. When you're recording and you're mixing and you're producing and you're mastering, it's when you're done with it, it's like, I don't want to hear this ever again. But, you know, a couple months go by, you listen to it again. Because if you don't like it to begin with, it's just like, what are you doing it for?
Right.
So let's talk about NAB, Final Cut Pro and NAB. So, of course, we have the Faster Together big event on Tuesday night. It starts at 4:30, I think, at the Rio. I think
that sounds right.
That's about 4:30 or so. So I was there last year. Is it the 6th or the 7th, the Tuesday? NAB Tuesday, whatever day that is. And I got there early. Did you drive me last year? Did I come up with you last year? I think I did, because did I just get there? Because you went early.
For me, I was on stage, so I went earlier.
I think I did, because I don't remember getting an Uber or anything to get there.
Yeah, it might have been. I remember driving a bunch of people around last year.
And the year before.
And the year before. Yeah, it was kind of a taxi.
I took advantage of the Brad taxi cab service, absolutely. Yeah.
The Toyota Corolla, and we're squeezing people into the trunk. It's so small.
But anyway, I got there. I think I did go with you, because I don't remember getting it. I didn't have any Ubers at Las Vegas last year, so I think I drove up with you early. You went and did your thing, prep work and stuff, and then I
don't think I drove you back, though. I drove you there.
That I don't remember.
Richard doesn't remember how he got home.
No, the thing is, here's the thing. I never used an Uber until I came to see Off the Tracks in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first time I did an Uber, so I know I didn't do it at NAB last year.
So somebody got you home.
Yeah, so Tony Mazzotti in the chat says, Richard and Brad, thank you very much for the work that you do. Thank you, Tony. Thanks for dropping by. We're just having a bit of fun here today.
We're hanging out.
Greetings Tony's from Brazil. He says, greetings from Brazil.
I think Tony... Is that the same Tony that emailed me? I'm not going to pull up my email right now. That name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I think I owe Tony an email back. If you're watching, Tony, sorry. I think that's the one. Maybe it's someone else. If it's not you, well, I'll email you anyway. Thank you, Tony.
There you go. So I think you did. I did go with you early to Super Meet last year, and you went and did your prep work, and I just hung out in the. It's not a mall. What the heck is it? It's just a big building.
The Rio.
The Rio, and there's a bunch of different areas, and I found my way around and found a Starbucks that wasn't open. It's so bizarre. Vegas, this is the second time I've had this happen. Vegas is a 24-hour-a-day city, right? Twice I found Starbucks that weren't open. One was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and one that was 7 o'clock in the morning over at the hotel I was staying at. But anyway, thought I just went over and found a great restaurant, so that's what I'll do again this time, probably, is get there and go to the restaurant, have a meal first, and then go to the Faster Together stage.
You're reminding me that it's lunchtime here.
Well, go grab a hot dog. We'll wait.
I should have had eating a big hoagie or something.
There you go.
No, I mean that I didn't wander around there that much. It's funny you described it as a mall. Those Vegas is an interesting place with all the convention halls and the casinos and the restaurants and the hotels all jammed together, and you can walk for hours and hours and hours and feel like you get nowhere. And I enjoyed that the last year. So I didn't realize at the time that I went up on stage at the Super Meet that would be the last, at least as it's been run, the last Mike Horton, Dan Berube Super Meet ever.
Yeah, so if people don't know that they're not having a Super Meet this year, and you're absolutely correct, Brad. I was there when you were on stage. I filmed you on stage, but I think just with my iPhone.
I don't know. You put a video up on YouTube.
Yeah, but I think for some reason, you know what? I didn't have I don't know what it was. So Mark Smith says, you all ready for NAB? We're getting there, Mark. We're definitely getting there. So I remember what it was, and this year I'm going to bring my fast lens. Last year I just brought my outdoor lens because it has a 10-to-1 zoom, but it's not a fast lens, and I need all the light I can get with the GH4 or GH5 in any kind of room that's dark. So it probably was too dark. So this time I'm bringing my fast lens, the one I can get down to f1.2 with a it's not only, let me turn the speaker off, it's making noises from my phone. It's not only a fast lens, but it's got a one of those adapters. What do you call them? It has an optical speed booster. Yeah,
you have a speed booster.
Yeah, so that increases the f-stop or decreases.
Well, what lens? Because I know you have the 18 to 35. That's an f1.8.
That's
what lens
it.
Are you...
That's the one I have.
Okay, it's the 1.8, the Sigma.
Yeah, Sigma, the art lens, and then when you put the speed booster on, it goes to 1.2.
It's at 1.2. I know you get more stops.
It's like 1.2. I thought it was 1.2. I have
wow.
I know that because I use that to film bands and clubs.
You know what? It's because you're on the Panasonic GH5.
Yes. Micro Four
and
Thirds.
I'm used to putting it on. I've done it with the Blackmagic, the original Pocket, and that was like it got to like 1.5 or 1.6 or something.
Okay.
So it makes sense with the bigger sensor. Yeah, you'd get all the way down to. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's here's the problem with that lens. It weighs more than the camera. It does. I'm used to the small Panasonic lenses, and they have dual image. Yeah, the dual image stabilization. Well, the 14 to 140, a 10 times optical zoom, but the it's like an f3.5 at the best. And
it changes.
It changes. So that's why I didn't use my GH5 when you were on. The iPhone was. I think I tried it, and the iPhone was actually getting a better image. So that's why I did that. So anyway, I absolutely have you on stage. I wanted to get that, and it's not. I didn't want to do the zoom in on Brad. I wanted to get the whole stage and some of the audience and stuff. So I have that. I'll put that up later as well at some point as we get closer to NAB.
Well, and they actually, the Super Meet guys actually put up the full presentation as well.
Exactly. So I'm not interested.
And that's from their cameras.
Yes, they have. They can zoom in. They have the high quality cameras and all that. And one of the things that people learn, I've learned it because I videotape bands all the time. Stage lighting for bands live and presentations live is not the best lighting for filming. Two different things. Stage lighting and filming lighting are two different things. A lot of times, they're just too bright and there's the wrong colors. I filmed a band last weekend. They put green on their faces. Why would you put green lights on people's faces? Well, of course, the film was it looked like they were sick.
I was going to say, is it a song about alien abductees?
No, it was not. It was not. So anyway, let's go back to Final Cut Pro and NAB while we're talking here. So Final Cut Pro and NAB. So I'm going to presume that there's going to be some Final Cut Pro stuff at Faster Together. Well, the one guy is a Final Cut Pro editor, right? Or are there two? Well, Michael Cioni, of course, is a big proponent of Final Cut. And he's already been announced.
Yeah, let's see. Where I had that pulled up. Faster Together. Well, Jonathan Morrison, YouTuber, is a big Final Cut guy. In fact, he was quoted on FCP.co saying, if you cut with Adobe Premiere, we can't hire you.
I saw that.
You kind of said it in a throwaway way, and so I thought it was really funny that was the article ran on FCP.co. The headliner was, we can't hire you if you cut in Premiere Pro. But
so I have the page up now on people can watch it. So it's 38 days, 0 hours, and 5 minutes, 15 seconds to Faster Together stage by LumaForge. And you can get there by going to fastertogether.com, of course. Buy tickets. And let's see what the speakers hasn't changed as far as I know. The same three plus Michael. Yeah, there we go. So Jonathan Morrison, Michael Cioni, and John Aldrich, and of course Mr. Michael Horton is going to be hosting.
Nice.
Absolutely. So I expect these spaces to be filled in. This one, and this one. So at least 6, I'd say. Maybe there'd be a couple more.
There's some interesting people that LumaForge could go after for sure. I think, that now that we know that we have an Oscar winner again this year that was cut on Final Cut, another short skin.
Right.
And I really enjoyed Ronnie Corton's interview with that editor. I think he's in Israel.
Right, that's what I heard. Yeah, I think so.
And it was a really good interview, and you could tell he was one of these editors that and commenting on certain third-party plugins and certain workflow things. He's somebody that definitely keeps track of the Final Cut community, and I don't know if it's in the cards, I don't know if it's going to happen, but he would be an interesting guest to have come out and present on the Faster Together stage, or some sort of course, we haven't heard anything about any other Final Cut, no Final Cut specific events, but if there was a Final Cut specific event, or maybe FMC with Postworld, that would be an awesome guest to get out there.
No, absolutely. So let's talk.
But there's not a lot of time before then. So
yeah.
Who knows?
So normally, the last 2 years it's been FCP Works / FCP Exchange that have put on an Apple, in cooperation with Apple, have put on an Apple Pro Apps marketing team Final Cut Pro presentation on Monday between 5 to 6:30.
Yeah, and Steve and Mark with Ripple Training also have been supporters of that and been presenting there.
Absolutely. And LumaForge. They also.
And last year we had the guys who made the music video. What is that music video called? I'm totally blanking. The one with I
remember
billion
like a
billion.
Despacito.
Yeah,
Despacito. There you go, Despacito.
Yeah, and some other interesting presentations. I felt it might have gone a little bit long, but it was overall. But it was it's always fun to have something specific for Final Cut. I don't know if we're going to see that this year. So far, we haven't seen any announcements, but it would definitely be exciting. So I think there's some rumors of maybe a 10.5 or something in the cards. But
what does that mean that we haven't seen anything this year so far? I mean, I'm curious. It doesn't mean there's not going to be a Final Cut Pro, Apple Final Cut Pro presentation. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I think you are too, that the Pro Apps team, marketing team, will be at NAB and they will be talking to people.
Physically, those people will be hanging around. I mean, it's just part of their job, right? Like they've got to go see what the trends are, and
that's true, and
interface with their customers and whatnot. So, they'll be there wandering around, but is there a centralized place to, where are we gonna see everybody? I don't know.
Well, yeah. So
and for the community, do we have a place to hang out? Those are still big question marks, and I'm sure LumaForge is at work thinking about what they can and can't do. But honestly, taking over the super meet like they are is it's a big thing.
Oh, it's
So
gigantic.
they've already got their work cut out for them, and I think there's only so many swords they can fall on before they bleed out. So
Yeah, well, no, you're right. So they've taken over the super meet slot with Faster Together. It's not going to quite be the same, but they're going to have vendors in the lobby area again that they had last time with different vendors, but it's going to be a curated list of vendors. I doubt if HP is going to be there, right?
oh yeah, that's funny. It's a reference. I was grumbling before that the last couple of years, HP's been a sponsor of the Super Meet, and I was like, I don't even know why they're here, but maybe there's some of you out there that like HP workstations. But as somebody who uses Final Cut Pro, I had no interest in HP, and I didn't think their presentations were particularly great at the last couple Super Meets that I've attended.
Right, right. So I doubt if they'll be there. So they'll have probably.
I don't think LumaForge is interested in having those kind of corporate presentations. I think they're much more interested in featuring people who are doing great work that can inspire the crowd. And I know that was something when Mike Horton invited me last year. That was something really important to him, and why he invited me to come up and speak is because he thought, hey, you made your own documentary, you did this without getting permission from Apple, you just and without having huge investment.
Sure.
And he wanted me to say something inspiring to that audience, so that they weren't just being sold to all night. That was, but that's an expensive thing to put on, and you got to figure out ways to pay for it. And HP was somebody who was willing to pay a lot of money to have a presence there, but.
Right. And since they had Premiere there, I don't know if Avid was there or not, that makes more sense from that aspect of it. I doubt if they're going to have Avid at Faster Together.
Well, Avid's primary business is storage, and like that's where they make money is support and storage. And LumaForge is a support and storage company,
right,
so they kind of. I mean, who knows? I would, I don't know what kinds of sponsors LumaForge is going to drum up, but I just think whoever presents is not going to be there to just sell you things. They're going to be presenting on, case studies and workflows. That's what we're looking at, and of course, Chione always gives my favorite presentation. So
absolutely,
I know that right there is a must see.
No, it absolutely
regardless
is.
of anything else that. And I like the title of his presentation. Does it say it here? I don't know if it says it on their website, but I think he's supposed to be presenting on like the future of. Well, he is always present. I could just say Michael Cioni is going to talk about the future of digital cinema, and that would apply to every presentation he's ever done.
Exactly. No, Michael Cioni, of course, is to me he's the keynote guy, at least so far.
Oh, that's what it was. It's on fcp.co. I put that in real quick. It actually has. I don't know why Patrick sees this. Why is there more information on fcp.co than on the Faster Together page? Michael Cioni will be giving a state of the digital union. So I like that. That sounds nice.
Absolutely. So there's going to be more announcements coming out over the next, well, I don't know when. Maybe.
Well, if we go back to, we're being very optimistic that there might be something with Final Cut there. But if we go back to 2011, it was 2 weeks before they announced Final Cut Pro, or that Final Cut Pro is going to be taking over the Super Meet. Apple was. And that was just a couple weeks before the Super Meet. There was nothing leading up to that.
Right.
I don't think we're going to be repeating 2011 this year, but
no, that's not going to happen. So
it's not totally unprecedented.
Well, one of the other things is LumaForge on their YouTube page. They brought out LACPUG January event with the Pro Apps team. I'm playing a little bit of that right now from the YouTube page.
Yeah, I watched that yesterday.
So that's Judd and Luke
and Estelle and Emery from Frame.io.
Oh, Frame.io. So was that? It seems that I've seen that. Was that the same presentation at Faster
They
Together?
pay me every time I show there.
Wait a minute. Let me get you back on screen there a second.
Yeah.
Was that the same? One more time. Show it now.
Okay. I'm not watching the live. There we go. The little frame. Frame.io. Sorry. So anyway, it was that was exactly the same presentation we got at the Creative Summit.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. You're like, this feels familiar. Yeah, it was the same thing. But it's nice for them, because there's only like 100 and something people at the Creative Summit. It's nice for them to make that type of presentation public and to showcase. I mean, it's difficult because the Creative Summit was in November, and then they did the January event at Lassie Pug, and then it takes some time to put that stuff together and get it out there. But it feels a little bit like there was a little delay. It would have been nice if they could have just got that out immediately for the rest of the world, with the release of 10.4.
So we have a nice comment from Tony Mazzotti. He says, yes, Brad, it's me. Your movie is wonderful. My congratulations also to Richard, who co-edited. This story that you have shown to the world is very important. A very nice comment. Thank you, Tony. He's from Brazil.
Yep, I got to email him back.
That would be nice.
You sent me a really good email. I had a shoot this last week and a couple other projects, and I've just been behind. So, but it's always great. That's the fun thing about. We were talking earlier about, there's a handful of people at any given time watching the movie every day. It's nice when your work affects people in other places and they feel strongly and passionately as we do about this story. So I've gotten I try to focus on those positive remarks that people send, because there's obviously people, being the internet and all, that just want to tear everything down.
Wait a minute. You mean the internet has negative people?
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, Richard.
I would believe it.
When people get together, they just start complaining on the internet.
Oh,
it's this crazy thing.
Yeah.
I thought everybody would be singing Kumbaya and roasting s'mores and everything, but that's not at all.
So Tony also says our culture needs to be rewritten, and this is already happening through videos. Final Cut completely changed my way of working with audiovisual, but also my way of studying various content and courses. Excellent.
Nice. Yep. I mean, that's what it's all about. Is the future of content creation and enabling storytellers to do more with less.
No, you're right.
That's my takeaway from what Tony's saying. I completely agree.
Absolutely. So what are you looking for NAB? I mean, obviously, I am interested in spending all the time I have to drive to the airport, spending a 5-hour flight, getting to LAX, or not LAX, to...
Have you committed to coming? Because I thought you were a little bit on the fence about... Since there's no Spinal Cut specific thing, I wasn't sure if we're definitely going to see you there. I'm going because I'm only a state away.
Right, exactly. No, if it was on the East Coast, I would go. But if there's not... Listen, I never went to NAB prior to the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I was going to go at one point when I was working for the National Archives, because they would pay for some training and stuff, but I never got there. There's really no incentive for me to go unless there's Final Cut Pro stuff. That's me personally, okay? If there's not Final Cut Pro-centric stuff, there's much less incentive for me to make all that. I mean, it's a day of traveling each way, to and from, and hotels and all that stuff, and it's expensive. And if it's not, I mean, why else would I go if there's not Final Cut Pro? I'm not going to see Black Magic.
You would go to see our friends, Sam Messman, Bill Davis, Mike Horton.
Right. That, you're absolutely correct, but I also see them at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. So
yeah. That's true.
So we'll have to find out. I don't know if there's going to be a Final Cut Pro presentation. Pro Apps team Apple presentation this year. Don't know for a fact. We don't know one way or the other. We also don't know about, because there's been no announcement about the Guru Gathering either. Those are two big things that I went the last 2 years because both of those things happened.
Well, and I'm with you. The first NAB I went to was in 2015, and the reason why I was excited to go was because FCP Works was putting on the FCP Exchange.
Okay.
And Apple was going to be there making presentations. And I walked up and I saw Mike Matsdorf standing outside the room, and I introduced myself to him, and I got to tell him, I've been watching you creepily on the internet and listening to podcasts and stuff. And
right.
It was my little moment. And now after making Off the Tracks, I get the similar thing that he got, which was people coming up to me and saying like, "Oh, I've been watching you on Richard's show and whatever." But that was my first introduction to that community, and then I went back the next year, and honestly, Off the Tracks happened because FCP Works put on those events, and there was a place for everybody to gather, and then there was the Creative Summit. If those events hadn't happened, then there would be no documentary, and you wouldn't be listening to me talking right now.
Oh, that's
so.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful thing to get such an enthusiastic community together, comparing notes, talking about workflows, and I'm hoping like we said last time, I'm hoping there's a space to do that this year. If not, then I guess we just have to wait for our own Creative Summit again.
Right.
Hopefully happening again this year. So we'll see. I'm sure Apple's got something they're doing. In fact, we talked about the LaCiePuck presentation, but there's also, if you go to Apple Newsroom, there was an article that was published there. I think I texted you a link. Did you ever check that out?
Oh, about the education.
Yeah, so there's a school that they're specifically teaching music, but they put together, they filmed their own music video and edited it in Final Cut Pro 10. And it was a really good article, and just kind of showed how, again, it goes back to that future of content creation and how it's enabling creative people to be super creative. So that was a pretty cool article.
So yeah, I have it up right now. Huntington Beach educators, mold musicians of tomorrow. They use Logic and Final Cut.
Yeah. Do you like Logic, Richard? A little bit?
I'm a huge Logic fan. Now, I didn't get involved with Logic until I was involved with Final Cut first. And then I got...
So here's a question. Where's Logic Pro Radio? There's got to be a Logic community, right?
Oh, I belong to several Logic groups because it's a great... Listen, Logic is a fantastic application. It's been around a lot longer than Final Cut Pro has. Well, Final Cut Pro 10, not Final Cut Pro itself. But Final Cut Pro has. It's pretty darn sophisticated. It's pretty complex. But it's, when people say, well, what do you use for audio? I would never recommend Logic for people who edit video and use audio for video because it's a different mindset, and it's pretty complex. It's more complex than Final Cut. So to send somebody over there, they're going to get disappointed, I think, or frustrated. There's got to be simpler audio tools out there for people to use, I think. For video editors, I mean. I'm used to tracking 64 tracks. Bass, guitars, 8 tracks, 15 tracks on drums alone and stuff, and keeping track of all that stuff. It's completely different than, maybe half a dozen of audio tracks. So, but I love it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Logic. I also bought Digital Performer just because it came out with a new version.
Well, I watched the video that was featured on that article, and I mean, it's impressive what kids. I say kids. I don't know how what age they are, but it's impressive what they're able to throw together. It was a fun. I think it was like it's like a 1970s kind of throwback video. the way the style they did it. I don't know if you watched the video, but
I haven't watched that yet.
anyway, it's pretty cool stuff. The other thing that I stumbled upon more recently, I'd watched the documentary, but I didn't realize it was edited in Final Cut Pro 10. But there's a documentary. It's a short documentary called Sriracha that made the rounds on like a ton of different film festivals.
Right.
And you had mentioned, we were talking before, you had mentioned that you actually know this filmmaker through the Panasonic community,
right.
with the GH4 and all that.
GH5, yes, absolutely. Griffin Hammond.
And his name's Griffin Hammond, and he made a documentary called Sriracha, and he made it back in like 2013. And last night I was watching his kind of making of the documentary video, which was good for me. For one thing, I need to do the exact same thing for Off the Tracks.
Okay.
There's a lot of, I think it's valuable information when you can. He did Sriracha similar to me. He raised about 20 grand on Kickstarter and traveled around the world and spent his kind of own time and money on this kind of niche sort of community centric film. And anyway, and I was watching it, and back when they made it, Final Cut was still split into projects and event libraries, separated. But he was showing how he worked with an assistant editor who had never edited anything before. And it was interesting because they were doing a lot more stuff in the timeline than I'm comfortable with.
Right.
Instead of doing keywords and notes and things in the browser, they were dragging. He would like throw an interview on a timeline, and then they would cut it up and cut it down on the timeline. And then he had his assistant editor rename the clip with like the actual transcript. So it was like and he'd search in the timeline index that way. But I'm like, I do that all in the browser before, but it worked for him. The kind of neat thing though, where that workflow worked back in the where events and projects were separated, is they could now have the same exact events, right? Folders. And
Yep.
Richard, I don't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go
ahead. They have the exact same events folders, but then they could pass back and forth their projects because they were separate.
Okay.
So
right.
So the event. So in a way, this made sense because their events, they never had to touch them again, and so he could take an interview, throw it in a project, cut it down, and hand just that project back. And they worked collaboratively that way, and it did make me think, as much as events and projects being separated was a pain, and we all welcomed the library, the unified library model, for collaboration, that separation actually kind of helped in a weird way.
Well, that's it. Did they, when they went to combined events and projects into one, that was 10.1?
Yes.
Was that also the same time they got rid of the project library?
Yeah.
Same time.
So, yeah, because when projects and events were separated, you had an event browser and you had a project browser. I don't know if it was called the project browser, but you had that project your libraries.
Right.
And I know what I assume what you're gonna comment on is that I do still miss that the fact that you could skim the projects in that project library view.
No, that's absolutely correct. So you can skim multicams in the browser, you can skim compound clips in the browser, and you can skim projects in the share menu. The little icon that you can actually.
Oh, yep.
You can scrub them, but you can't scrub them in the browser. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, those three places you can, but in the browser you can't scrub a project.
I don't know. They probably introduced some bug that caused it to crash over and over. So
okay,
they're sparing us. I have no idea.
No.
I assume it's a stability thing, but I don't know. I do miss that though. It was
yes.
It was a great way to just quickly be like, oh yeah, this is, see what it is, or see what version the edit, was. And of course you can name these things and whatnot, but it takes a while to load a project in sometimes. I
Right.
think it's funny that we. Do you ever have this where you actually have to click on the project? It doesn't load in the timeline. You double click on it again, it finally
Yeah,
loads.
it's kind of, yeah, some weird things like that. I've had that happen, absolutely.
Yeah, I come across that often. I don't think I've written in on that bug, but it's kind of a
Did,
weird little
did you
finicky
ever
thing.
did you ever watch Lost, the TV show years ago?
Yeah,
I love that.
I actually rewatched it last year.
Okay, well, what you're talking about sending in requests. Remember when they had the pneumatic tubes in the place,
Oh yeah,
and they kept sending up messages, and they finally went out into a field and they saw the tubes just dropping into a field. Nobody was
yeah.
nobody was there. I love that. That was one of my favorite things about. I thought
No,
Lost was a
you're
fantastic television series.
you're scaring the listeners though. Is that
No,
what
no,
happens with my Final Cut feedback?
we know for a fact that Apple, somebody reads every email they get on the feedback for Final Cut Pro. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to respond to every email, and that doesn't mean you're going to get the request that you want for every email, but they do read them. Absolutely.
They read them, they catalog them, they kind of, if there's an influx of a particular request, then they do address those. If you're wondering why certain features are highlighted, sometimes it's just everyone wanted batch exporting, so we've got batch exporting.
Yes.
I actually that's actually an interesting segue because I've been thinking about that a bit this morning. Somebody once again on the Final Cut 10 editors group on Facebook had to stir the hornet's nest and complain that the Final Cut's really a professional application. Why doesn't it have AAF export? It's that I've seen it before. We've talked about it plenty of times. And I think I've been thinking a lot about if you knew that I think it's a valid request, but if you knew if people realize that the people who work on the software actually see these posts on social media, would you be a little nicer? Like that would be my first request to people, that if you're going to complain about Final Cut publicly like that, have some, I think decorum is the right word, but
sure, absolutely.
Be respectful.
Yes.
It's like we're filmmakers. When we put something out into the world, how do we feel when somebody just trashes our movie, and says it was a complete piece of crap and whatever?
Right.
So if you're talking about Final Cut, I don't think calling in, the whole, is it a professional application? That's just a silly way to start it out. It is reasonable to ask why doesn't Final Cut have AF export? I think because you've got it in Avid, you've got it in Resolve, you've got it in Premiere. Now we can argue about how well it works in Premiere because it doesn't.
Right.
But it's there.
Right.
And this kind of goes back, this whole feedback thing and what features get implemented. My sense that I get is when a feature is introduced into Final Cut, there has been a lot of time and effort and love put into trying to get it to be the best it can possibly be.
Absolutely.
And AAF export, I'm sure it's on some list somewhere of things that we might get to. But at the same time, you're only paying $299 for Final Cut Pro 10. You're not paying a monthly subscription.
Yeah, over 7 years.
It doesn't cost what Avid used to cost, or even still Avid costs, has a subscription model or a more expensive fee. Resolve, is the exception. You've got a free version out there.
Right.
That is actually not that hamstringed. It's not that limited. But Resolve comes from a background of being a finishing tool that had to support everything in the first place.
Right.
And so, that's so to me, buying a third-party plugin like Exta Pro or using Logic Pro, if you are a quote-unquote professional, then you need AF export, paying $150 for Exta Pro, well, that pays for itself the first time you use it.
Sure.
And the fact is, I get compliments all the time when I hand off AAFs. Thank you so much for taking the time to organize everything. And I just chuckle to myself because Final Cut has read the IXML data coming in from the recorder,
Right.
and Extra Pro is spitting out tracks based off of those sub roles, and I didn't have to do anything. So the time that it saves just in there, and I just think about an assistant editor working in Avid and moving things up and down tracks and muting and unmuting tracks and spitting out their AAFs that way, and thinking about how many hours and how much time did they waste doing that. So, would it be nice if Apple did it directly in Final Cut? Sure. The solution we have right now pays for itself. It works really great. Marquis is really good about supporting it.
Right.
Is it perfect? No, but it's one of the better, if not the best, solutions I've seen for the problem. And if Apple chooses to address that, which again most of their users don't need it, but if they do choose to address it someday, then they're going to make sure it's better than what's in Extra Pro, which is already really good. So those things take time. I think before we've talked about what's the priority of features, and I think Apple likes big ones that they can market.
Right.
AAF export is not a big one that they can market, and then the team is able to sneak in little things that don't take very much time, like little fixes and little improvements that they can sneak in there. And then there's this stuff that's kind of in between that they might get to it someday, but it's just not going to make the top of that priority list.
Right. Apple's like any other company. I mean, I had Robert Kruger on this week, and he was saying one of the top requests he's had since the beginning is the checksum verification on copying. Well, it just made it into 1.6 because other things got in the way or other things had to be done first. So all companies prioritize requests like that. But
and you also have to build on previous versions too. So, why do we get color tools? Well, then we're supporting HDR, and then we're supporting, ProRes RAW. Like, you can see a logic to the software development, and it can't all happen at once.
Right.
But for those of us who need some of these, that's the beauty of the third party. That's the beauty of the Final Cut XML and some of the other, and now workflow extensions, is Apple's reaching out to third parties to solve some of these very specific workflow issues. And heck, if they can bolt on something like Extra Pro straight in as a workflow solution, then I don't know what the complaint would be at all, other than I don't want to spend the money. But it's like, if you need to do it, it doesn't cost that much.
No, like you said, the first job should pay for anything you get like that. So no, you're absolutely correct. I have Extra Pro. I've had it for a while. But no matter what, there's going to be complaints. People are going to complain about this. They do that on the internet. Have you ever noticed that? Cranky people. They don't know how the internet works.
We've been talking about cranky people. Well, and again, I just think for the Final Cut community, if anybody's watching this and they pass it along, I think your opinions and your complaints, everybody should be heard. But I think there's a respectful way to do it, and if you're respectful, it's gonna open up some more doors, and you're gonna get responses back.
Absolutely.
And you're gonna see that happen. If you're rude about it and just complaining and grumbling, then I think that it's what Michael Cioni said in his presentation at Faster Together a couple of years ago, where noise gets rendered out.
Yes.
Is the quote that he used.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. He had his presentation last year was so funny. He kept bringing in the different tweets and stuff that kept coming up as he was making comments. I mean,
the YouTube comments. Because this is from the future, and he's already addressing the negative feedback he already knows he's gonna get from the future. That was a clever presentation.
Absolutely was. So Amy Kale on the feed says hello to Richard and Brad.
Hello.
She made a little comment. So NAB, let's go back to NAB. So we don't know at this point. I mean, it's March, so there should be an announcement if there's going to be an official Apple presentation. There should be an announcement. There should be an announcement about what's going on with the Guru Gathering. But even if those two things don't happen, the Faster Together station Tuesday night is going to be fantastic. What are you going to do on Monday during the day, for example? Do you have any plans? Specific?
Well, I've got to figure that out because my original plan was to drive down Monday, actually.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And be there in the afternoon. I am going to... I've thrown in as a volunteer to help LumaForge with some things.
Okay.
I don't know how, and so I got to have those meetings. There's a chance I might need to be down there sooner, but we're still figuring all of this out. I don't have a hotel booked because I was going to stay with at my friend's sister's house.
Okay.
But if I have to be down there earlier, maybe I have to figure out a hotel. So I'm still kind of figuring that out. If I am down there Monday and I'm not needed to be setting up anything or whatnot, then that'd probably be my show floor day.
Right. So is there anything special you want to see?
It'd be the most fun. I mean, I'm guarantee you walk into the South Hall, Blackmagic's gonna have their giant.
I love Blackmagic's
posters
booth, yeah.
up. And they're going to have their giant booth. Maybe they're going to... Last year they ate the Red booth because Red left NAB. I don't know why people aren't complaining that Red's not professional because they're not at NAB. I know that people made a big deal about Apple leaving NAB. But... on the show floor. But
right.
Yeah, Blackmagic's booth is probably going to keep taking over more of... Pretty soon the whole South Hall is
right, exactly.
the Blackmagic Hall.
Exactly. I couldn't believe how big that was last year.
It's so insane. I'm sure they've got something up their sleeves that they're excited about.
They absolutely will have something. I keep saying they're going to have the Pocket Cinema 4K camera too, but that's just a joke.
They're going to have the 8K Pocket,
right? 6K or 8K. Camera. So you think 6K is going to be coming in on cameras this year at NAB? I mean, because we already had the DJI. The one other thing besides the Atomos recorders that does ProRes, and that's actually 6K. I didn't know that.
Yeah. The
ProRes
recorders. My understanding with the recorders, other than maybe bandwidth, is they're not exactly limited by resolution. It's that Panasonic's EVA outputs 5.7K, and it can accept that. So the recorder. I don't know if there's a limitation on there other than data rates, if that makes sense.
Well, what I meant was since there's already a DJI camera that shoots 6K ProRes 6K. RAW, do you think?
Right. So I was thinking about Atomos.
Do you think other cameras are going to be 6K this time at NAB?
If I were a camera manufacturer, I would look at leapfrogging 6K and going straight to 8K.
Just double 4K.
Yeah. Well, quadruple.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, yeah, if I were a camera manufacturer pumping out a new camera this year, I mean, maybe we'll see Sony or Canon or somebody come out with a $3,000 mirrorless or DSLR that probably mirrorless camera that shoots 8K video.
Well, the GH5 shoots 5200K. It shoots that already natively. You can do anamorphic squeezing to get it to 6K. And that's almost 2 years. 2 years old at this point, or a year and a half old, whatever it is.
Well, and just it makes sense, going from standard definition to high definition to 4K. The next kind of leap is 8K. But, we're already. I'm sure there's people like Alex Goldner and others that comment on the fact that we're already at 4K. Shooting more than enough, but if there's you got to keep selling cameras.
Well, they're not going to stop just because it's as much as we can see. They're not going to stop. I mean, they're going to do 6K, they're going to do 8K, whether we can benefit from it or not. I mean, I love 4K, so I'm satisfied. But if a camera came out and it shot 6K, I wouldn't complain about it. It has to be 10-bit though at this point, or 10 or 12-bit, not just 8-bit. Right?
Yeah, we got to break past definitely want to break past that. The 422 10-bit is kind of a magic thing to say, and if we can get did you see that I don't know if we talked about this before, but the Nikon Z6 and Z7 will announce that they don't support it yet, but if you pair that up with the Atomos Ninja V, through HDMI, they're going to output 12-bit RAW.
Okay.
So that's pretty impressive from a DSLR or a mirrorless camera.
No, absolutely it is.
I guess the Nikon's the new mount. Anyway, but being able to output through HDMI 12-bit RAW is really impressive. I would love to see more camera manufacturers supporting this HDMI RAW output, because then you can get away with smaller, lighter recorders like the Ninja V and get your ProRes RAW that way. And I'd also like to see Adobe embrace ProRes RAW, and I'd like to see Blackmagic embrace ProRes RAW. That would be my perfect NAB, would be those types of announcements. I know there's a lot of debates on the internet about who's using ProRes RAW, what, but you know what? I actually remember when ProRes first came out.
Right.
It took 2 or 3 years for that to really catch on the way it did. And once it did, it was fully embraced. But I remember delivering XD Cam or DVC Pro HD for a couple years after Apple announced ProRes. So, and once the Arri Alexa said, hey, we're going to shoot ProRes onboard native, that just was the thing that threw all the dominoes, that's what knocked all the dominoes over, or whatever, was the Alexa supporting ProRes. And there was multiple things that lined up like that.
Right,
but,
right.
But, as far as it's very premature to announce ProRes RAW is dead on arrival or isn't going to be supported, because it's not going to take much for camera manufacturers and people to see the benefits of supporting that. So we need to get it on the other NLE side. But I think, didn't Adobe say something about ProRes RAW?
I thought they did, yes.
And sorry, we don't. It's a little bit of hearsay because I don't have an exact article to pull up. But
no, I think you're correct. I think
that if Adobe's supporting it, Blackmagic's going to have to support it, and that's kind of the game over. And honestly, I could care less what Avid does, because it's an offline editor. The way that people work with, even if Avid says, hey, we're doing a uncompressed DNX and whatever else, the way that the conditioning that the Avid people, in fact, I've seen these posts recently on some groups on Facebook in the post-production world, where people are arguing that use Avid whether or not it's worth doing 4K at all. They are still very much entrenched in an offline mentality. So ProRes RAW being supported by Media Composer is a moot point, because anybody cutting on Media Composer is going to transcode that media before they even touch it in Avid, and then they're going to send it back out. So what matters is Adobe and Blackmagic and other finishing tools supporting ProRes RAW, not Media Composer itself.
Right. Well, we have to. Apple has to release ProRes RAW to more people, though, right? Because I think it's restricted right now just to those vendors.
I don't know how the licensing works, but I can't possibly see our friends at Apple saying, no, we'll never let Canon or somebody, natively support this format.
I don't mean that they're not going to say they're never going to, but I only know of the Atomos and the DJI drone that can do ProRes.
Well, there might have been, again, I don't know, I have no insight into the behind the scenes of this, but there might have been a 1-year exclusive head start.
Oh, there you go.
From Atomos and DJI, so that they could be the first ones to have it. I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe there was some sort of deal struck like that. But again, it's been a year.
Right. That's why I'm saying NAB might have some information about.
I think this would be a great time for them to be pushing it out to more manufacturers and more people. And look, if they don't, then I am.
No, I think they will.
I'm more concerned about it.
No, well, it would be ridiculous just to restrict it to Atomos and DJI drone. That would be ridiculous. So that's not going to happen. They're definitely going to. I'm just wondering when they're going to do that. So
and people people are like, well, we're perfect. I saw this comment the other day that we're perfectly content with our existing ProRes and shooting log. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but with ProRes RAW and ProRes RAW HQ, you're getting more detail, more information at the same data rates. So and with the same performance. So it's not taxing your system any more than using regular ProRes, as other than
Right.
maybe if you're jumping up resolutions.
Right.
But it's not really taxing your system anymore, and you're getting all these benefits. So you'll want to shoot. You'll want to have everything in ProRes RAW if you can.
Absolutely.
In the next couple of years. I'm excited about that.
I am too. I hope the GH6 does ProRes RAW out via HDMI.
You know, that's another pet peeve of mine. I feel like Canon, Sony, and Panasonic should just give up on all their proprietary nonsense codecs and just embrace like some things like ProRes. Give us some options, because I would agree that we don't want one vendor ruling it all. I mean,
Right.
as convenient as that would be, whenever you have one industry standard taking over everything, then people get complacent.
Right.
Why are Avid editors still cutting everything offline? I mean, you could make arguments for it with collaboration and whatnot, but a lot of why they aren't pushing that forward, or even offline 4K, if that's a thing, that's an entrenched thing, standard in Hollywood, that no one is contesting or no one's knocking over. So, I like that there's Blackmagic RAW or other options as well, but I would love for camera manufacturers, even if they have their own flavor of a codec, to embrace codecs that are more editor friendly, because
they absolutely should. They absolutely should.
And now that Steve Bays is no longer at Apple, maybe I can. Last year I talked to him, and he told me that the whole, I'm not giving away any secrets or anything, because I don't really know any, but he told me that the whole purpose of inventing ProRes over a decade ago was because camera manufacturers were working harder and harder to pack more data into more compressed files, but on the editing side of things, it was not performance friendly.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you packed all this into a small file so you could fit it on your card, but now when we go to edit, you're bogging down the system. So they originally had the Apple Intermediate codec to solve like HDV and some of those formats.
Sure.
And then they realized that they could up it to a higher finishing format and an edit friendly format, which was ProRes. It was genius. I think ProRes RAW is a potential way to solve some of the same issues on the acquisition side, where you get some of these raw flavors that are either uncompressed RAW and or like Red RAW is become pretty comfortable to work with, but Canon RAW and Red RAW still don't have the performance that regular ProRes is giving us.
Okay.
So ProRes RAW was a way to solve that if people are open for it, or maybe Red takes a page from Apple's book and says, okay, maybe there's ways we can make Red RAW not as processor intensive.
Well, since we've talked about it, we're going to make a prediction. You and I both are going to make a prediction that there's going to be an update to ProRes RAW at NAB coming up. NAB is a little over a month away. Today's March the 2nd, and NAB starts on April the 6th or April the 7th, something like that. So it's just under 5 weeks at this point.
Yep, that's right. So I hope I see you out there. Did you don't know if you're going, but are you going to just wait until the last possible second? Have you reserved any hotels, or?
I have some contingency plans in place, but I have to, like I said, there's some plans in place, yeah.
Okay, so you've got something in place, but there's a chance you may not come at all.
There'd be a couple of factors in that. Number one is sponsorship, and number two is Final Cut Pro events. Because
have you set up a GoFundMe for NAB?
Well, I'm not sure. I'd rather get. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I might know something this week.
Desperate.
I might know something this week. No, I wouldn't care if people wanted me to go. I would certainly. I don't know how those things work. I've never actually done one. I've contributed to them, and I've gotten products. Usually
it's GoFundMe's are more like help me pay for my hospital bills.
Right. Well, I'm not. I have a pretty big megaphone with Final Cut Pro Radio. I get thousands of downloads of that show each week. So if I wanted to, but we'll see. Something will have to happen in the next week or so. If I make it, I might be able to make an announcement that I'm definitively going. But anyway, if I go, I'll be there arriving on Sunday because I can't come in on Monday because it's too late. So I'd come in on Sunday because of my flights. I only have a couple of flights, one in the morning and one in the evening. Same as Final Cut Pro, the Creative Summit. I have one in the morning, one in the evening. I don't have like a whole for nonstop. Okay, for nonstop from the East Coast. So I have to come in Sunday morning, and then I'll be there Sunday during the day, and then Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday during the days. Tuesday I'll be heading over to the Faster Together stage early. Typically what I would do, go there early and then eat dinner there and then jump in and stuff. But, the last couple of times I've got hours and hours and hours of behind the scenes 4K 10-bit footage that I have, because that's what I like doing. Filming somebody on the stage is not as interesting to me as filming around the stage. Filming behind the scenes. Like, I'll probably go into the green room if I can this time and do some filming from there and stuff. And, I'll do some stuff on the show floor as well. If I can.
Well, that's, it's always fun to connect, people who aren't able to make it. And make them feel like they have some window there. And specifically when it's community-centric like this. And we kind of know each other.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely.
It's fun. I'm hoping though we get a good crowd out and we all figure out where we can meet up and have at least have some meals together or whatever. We can have a bit of fun in Vegas.
So Chuck Braverman says, "Picture looks good. You left Google Video. What are you using now?" So Chuck, I'm on, of course, my camera. Brad is actually on Skype. It seems to be work better. I don't know how, but he's on a Skype video call, and it just seems more stable, and the quality.
And you've switched out your software as well.
Yes, I switched out my software. I'm not using Google Hangouts anymore like we did, because that was originally what everybody used, because it's free. Right? You could have multiple people join in, and it's free. But now I'm using Skype. Skype call recorder is one of the things that's how Brad's getting into this thing.
Yeah, I got a notification that says Richard is using a device that could record or broadcast this call.
Did you really? On the Skype end?
Yeah, it's letting me know.
It's not. Yeah, that's good. The software is Ecamm's Skype call recorder, and they have some kind of a combination. They just started up subscription.
Chuck has got his own Westdock Online series.
Yes,
I was
yes,
on one of those episodes. I don't know if I've seen any recent posts from there. Maybe Chuck can confirm or tell me if they're. It's been a while since I've seen anything, but I know that he set up his own hardware and is using a different service for calling in. It seems to work really, really well. But he did say that he had to go to a PC to get all this hardware working.
Really?
Yeah. So
I'm not going to do that.
He betrayed us. But that seemed to work the best for doing the live calls, at least.
So right. So he has I've seen a very complex setup. It's very sophisticated.
Well, and he'll have a lot of people on at a time, and no, it's a fun Westdock Online for those people who are interested in documentaries. Chuck gets a lot of really interesting guests.
Oh yeah,
Academy Award winners and
absolutely
a very high up industry people in that world. So
Chuck, are you coming to NAB?
Waiting.
Chuck Braverman, are you coming to NAB this year? That's where I met him, I think. NAB a couple years ago. I don't think it was the Creative Summit. I think it was. Yeah, Chuck says yes.
He says yes.
There you go.
Yeah, I met Chuck at the Creative Summit as well. Actually, no, that's where I met him. That's where you had to have met him, because I interviewed Chuck for the documentary at the Creative Summit in 2016.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he was there. He was presenting that year because he'd just done those documentaries.
That's right. No, you're right. It was a Creative Summit. It was a crazy
Yep.
summit. Then the next year, I met him again at NAB. Chuck says he's coming Monday through Wednesday. So
That's the time to be there.
no, absolutely. I'm still looking at things to do. Tuesday night's booked. That's if I go, that's not a problem.
Previous years, LumaForge has hosted like a rap party on Wednesdays.
Yeah, it was an invite-only quote, but
I don't know that again because who knows? It's they've got a lot to do, so they'll figure it out. And like I said, I'll help out with whatever. I'm obviously not in all the planning meetings, but they are kind enough to let me volunteer, I guess.
Kind enough to let you volunteer. So, there you go. Very kind of them. I also, if you're available, will let you volunteer to pick me up a couple of times.
To pick you up with the car. Well, I may have to. Yeah, if I was originally planning on not driving out myself, but I may have to do that. So. Well,
if you do, as in the past, I will pay for parking, or pay you for gas, whatever, instead of a Uber. Although I am going to get, because if I go, I'm going to get the shuttle bus worked very well last time. Mm-hmm. They had multiple shuttle buses in the morning for free from the hotel. The one in the afternoon started at a certain time, and then same thing, it was free, so that worked out well. But I am going to get, I think, a Metro pass this time, or the monorail pass. It's not that expensive, and I can walk. That way I have more options during the day if I feel like I'm tired and the bus is not, the shuttle's not going to be there for a couple hours. I could take the monorail back and just walk back.
So you're saying you don't want to pay for overpriced food at the convention center?
Do they even have any food? I think the last time they were
fasting. They do.
Where
they
is
have
it?
a whole. I think there's some stuff on the show floor in different areas,
okay.
But the main place to get food is in the South Hall when you just walk in on the right hand side as you're coming in. There's a huge cafeteria area, and I had some pizza last year. It wasn't great, but
okay.
They have drinks and food
and a place to sit,
and,
hopefully, because I hate eating standing up if I don't have to.
I think there's some sit down, and then there's some tables that are like standing tables, but
okay.
you at least can set your food down.
So Chuck says, "Where are you guys staying?" Well, Brad's staying in his car. He's going to stay in his car. I'm gonna.
Hope I don't get mugged.
I'm gonna give you Bill Davis's personal hotel room. I have that information. I'll give you his cell phone number and his.
Yeah, that's what we should do as a Final Cut community. We should just all get together and like book out the same hotel and make a mini creative summit out of it.
It's just like Juniper, right? Exactly, just like the Juniper Hotel.
Yeah, we should pick a place and just get some representation as a company or something, and
as a group.
Get like a group rate.
Get a group rate, and we can all meet in the lobby like we do at the Juniper for the Final Cut Pro thing. So anyway, Apple has pre-announced they're going to release an update to Final Cut Pro the first half of 2019. Yeah, Chuck says, here you go. Chuck says, here you go. He goes, Final Cut Pro Airbnb.
Yep.
That's it. Chuck, you organize that. You go ahead and organize that, and we'll get... just don't tell them you're using a PC for your work, and then you'll be fine.
That's right.
So we're going to be... well, if you drive, will you come in on Sunday, you think, or...
I was originally planning on driving down with a friend on Monday, but I may need to be there sooner. So if that's the case, I'll drive in sooner.
Okay. Well, then we'll probably hook up if I get there on Sunday. Well, hopefully I'll know this week for sure. Then I can make the official announcement that I'll be there. We'll see how that works.
What I might do if I drive down and need to be there Monday, because I'm coming from Salt Lake, so it might be nice to just stop in St. George where I have family. And then do the rest of the trip Monday morning. So that's an option as well.
Don't you have relatives it's not in Vegas?
St. George. It's like a southern
Okay.
city. It's kind of Utah's version of Florida.
Okay.
It's kind of the retirement. That's where my grandparents live.
Gotcha.
So it gets really hot there, but yeah, that's a potential stop on the way. So I'll figure it out.
Absolutely. So
Got to figure it out this week.
Yeah, I got to do the same. So I'll come have a couple more of these NAB related, Final Cut Pro related as we get more information. I'm waiting on information from multiple places on what's going on with Final Cut this time around, because since Apple has announced an update to Final Cut Pro, there's no guarantee it's going to happen at NAB. But hey, if I was in charge of the marketing team, I would say NAB is where you want to release Final Cut Pro. The Mac Pro can come, can be previewed at WWDC and then released later. But since NAB is really the biggest post-production video production event in the world each year, that's where Final Cut Pro, maybe it's not 10.5, maybe it's only 10.4.6.
Well, maybe it's not 10.5, but maybe we get that because they did. You're talking about what you're referring to when you say they pre-announced is that they said that they were going to address this legacy media thing and give you a tool to transcode legacy media.
Identify and transcode, both.
Identify. So we know that feature's got to come. And like we said earlier, I think the other thing to keep an eye on is if there's some ProRes RAW announcements.
Yes.
And those are the things that I think, those are the things that are probably the most obvious. Maybe 10.5 is something that ships with the Mac Pro. We know that in 2013 with that Mac Pro, they held off on releasing an update for Final Cut. I think it was 10.2 or something like that. They held off that release for the Mac Pro as well. So,
but here's the thing:
they had them come out at the same time.
They did exactly the same thing both times. The Mac Pro came out at the very end of December. Final Cut Pro came out 2 weeks before that. When the iMac Pro came out, they did the same thing. They weren't released at the same time. They were released like a week or 2 weeks apart, but
right.
In the proximity of each other, absolutely. But really, what Final Cut Pro was not dependent on the Mac Pro, and Final Cut Pro was not dependent on the iMac Pro. There were no special features that were only Mac Pro or only iMac Pro.
Well, we were told that the update for Final Cut Pro, when the 2013 Mac Pro came out, they did make a big deal that Final Cut Pro was written to be optimized to take advantage of the dual graphics cards and things like that. So, I mean, there's some relationship to it, and we also know. Look, I'm guilty of it. I bought the trash can Mac Pro, and part of it was, I considered that my $4,000 upgrade to Final Cut Pro.
But what about, I use iMacs, and I have very good performance, just regular iMacs. Now, like I've said, I have money, Apple, right here, for either a Mac Pro or the iMac Pro update, whatever comes first. I mean, it could be the iMac itself, but I think I'm going to go with, hopefully the Mac Pro. That's
they need to update the iMac,
both.
And the iMac is due for an update.
Absolutely, it is. 2017 is 2019. They need an iMac update. They need an iMac Pro update, and they need of course, the Mac Pro has already been announced, so we knew that's coming in 2019. Apple has said 2019. So,
and the rumors are a 16-inch MacBook Pro and a 6K Apple display.
6K Apple display would be good. 16-inch MacBook Pro. Is that going to be much screen real estate difference? I'm not sure if it's that much because it's diagonal, right?
Yeah, but if they are, I'm looking at my MacBook Pro right now, and if they were able to slim down the black bevels on the side and fill in more screen, that would be pretty cool.
Okay. So
I just bought this MacBook Pro, but if there was a 16-inch that rolled out this year, I might be considering a trade-in. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I will be selling.
I really like my MacBook Pro, but
yeah, I'm going to be selling mine after NAB, my 2016. I still have I got an Apple extended warranty, so at that point I'll have 6 months warranty left, so I'll be able to sell that and then I'll wait to see what they're going to do with the new MacBook Pro or buy one from last year or whatever. But I'm more interested in the Mac Pro and the iMac Pro and all these 2019 models. But anyway, Apple marketing will be at NAB. They'll be there to talk to vendors, talk to people, software people. I'm sure they're going to be at Faster Together. I'm sure they're going to be there. I don't know if they're going to be presenting. That's the question, whether they're going to be presenting yet. I have faith.
Yeah, so if you watch the the LaCiePug meeting from January that we were talking about earlier, that look for those people, Luke and Estelle. We're calling them out.
Well, here they are right here. I'll play the video again. Let's see. Here we go.
I know there's only like 100,000 something people at NAB, so you should be able to pick these two out of a crowd.
There's Luke.
Plus, they're Australians.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're Australians. Absolutely. So there's Luke himself. There's Final Cut Pro. So interestingly, wasn't 4.5 out at that point? When they presented 4.4.
I don't remember when 4.5. I mean, I know it's the same as the Creative Summit. It was 10.4.4, but yeah, I don't know.
So maybe they just kept everything so they didn't. Nothing really changed. It was just bug fixes, right? 4.5 was just bug fixes.
Yeah, I mean the features were introduced in 4.4.
Right. Exactly. They were introduced in 4.4.
What they should do is add another dot to that, so it can be 10.4.4.4.
Well, the only Final Cut Pro release that went above 10.5 was 0, which went up to 9, right? 10.0.9.
Yep.
Everything else didn't get to 5. Doesn't get to 5. So, just in the history of Final Cut Pro updates. So we're already at the maximum. They can't do it anymore. They can't do 10. They cannot do 10.4.6. They can't do it. It has to jump to 10.5 to start over again.
10.5 or nothing.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
All right.
Yep. So everybody, we're going to, I guess, log off here for the day. We're going to jump back on here every once in a while. I wanted to try out Facebook versus YouTube Live to see how it went. We'll find out. It went smoothly as far as I'm concerned. I mean, we didn't have any stumbles. The internet kept up. I could hear you clearly. I even got your name on there on the live stream. Final Cut Pros Saturday Meetup. That's what I'm calling these. We'll jump on every once in a while. Unannounced. Or maybe I'll announce an hour before. We'll see. I've got a few more Final Cut Pro Radio TV Live events coming up during the week that I will pre-announce. Not too much in advance, but a little bit of pre-announcement.
All right.
So Chuck says, looks really good. Congrats. Thank you very much, Chuck. I'm going to be anxious to see you at NAB. Chuck, what are you going to look at NAB? Anything special? Are you going to come to the Faster Together stage?
You're going to have to get Chuck on one of these episodes.
Well, that's true too. That's a good idea, Chuck. I'll get you on one of these episodes. He's been on, of course, Final Cut Pro Radio before.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, I don't have anything else other than I've got a presentation I'm going to go do at a local film festival. So I've got to go prep for that.
So tell us about that real quick before you go.
Well, if you were at the Creative Summit, then I did a presentation there. It was like the last day and there wasn't a lot of people there, but I did a presentation on how to publish your movie to iTunes, which is something a year ago I had no idea how you do that. And I was just in a position where I wasn't really able to snag a distributor and ended up self-distributing. And I talk a bit about that on Chuck's West Doc Online, which is worth checking out.
Absolutely.
And so I put together a presentation to show the Creative Summit how to use Final Cut, how to use compressor, what are all the things you need to know about mastering your file. And I figured for the local film community here in Utah, there's a festival that's running this week. My friend is actually in charge of it, and I figured it would be helpful to repurpose that information. I'm not digging as much into Final Cut,
right?
But there's a lot of independent filmmakers there, and I think it's empowering for filmmakers to know that self-distribution is an option, and that they can get on platforms like iTunes, Netflix, Hulu by themselves, because there's a lot of good distributors, and there's reasons why you'd want a distributor, but some just want to grab your movie and add it to a catalog, and you as an independent filmmaker are so exhausted that they sort of take advantage of
Sure.
the fact that they're not going to really push anything, and they might say, oh, we can get your movie on iTunes. Well, guess what? You can get your own movie on iTunes. If that's all your distributor has to offer, they're not really giving you anything. So that's what I'm going to talk about today.
So Chuck Braverman says, is that iTunes presentation available on video anywhere?
So they are live streaming it. I shared a link to my Facebook page, but I think at this point they were live streaming everything for like $20. And
okay.
And if I can get a hold of my own presentation and upload it separately, because they are videoing it, I'll see if I can just put it up for free. If that doesn't happen, I am long overdue. I've been meaning to talk to Peter Wiggins about writing up an article.
Right. So,
and specifically on publishing to iTunes. So I definitely want to get it out there, and that is super valid, Chuck. I need to do that. If I can post this one, I will. If they don't do that for whatever reason, I mean, like I said, I know they're live streaming it, but now it's the end of this is the end of 2 days of live streaming these presentations, and it's particularly catering to the local Mormon distributors in Utah.
Gotcha.
So it's probably not of interest to the broader community, but this particular presentation is a good one. And like I said, I learned a lot, and there's things I would do differently the second time around. So I'll get it out there.
There you go. So everybody that's
one way or another,
everybody that's coming to NAB, if you see Brad or myself, just walk up and say, "Hey, we'd love to meet you." Well, I would. What about you, Brad? I guess you would, right? Don't knock on your car if Brad's sleeping, because he sleeps late. Don't.
Yeah, I'll be. Well, it's so hot in Vegas that I'll be up at 8.
It snowed. It snowed there.
Did it?
Yeah, last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it'll be in April. It'll cook up though.
Absolutely.
No, I would love to meet people from wherever that have seen my documentary and have some opinions about it. Hopefully they're kind and don't tear me apart. But
do you engage with people that perhaps post things that aren't that nice? Or
I try to avoid it where I can, because I just think it can get ugly and personal fast.
Right.
And a lot of these people who have negative things to say, they're not really thinking they're going to be hurting someone's feelings.
Sure.
or not. They're venting because, in a way it's a compliment. If somebody takes the time to write a big long post about why Off the Tracks is wrong or why I'm wrong as a filmmaker, obviously I touched on something that is important and matters to them enough for them to take the time to write it.
Right.
But I try not to engage, because that would just be a major time suck.
Yes, exactly.
I really appreciate the private messages of people reaching out and letting me know how how the movie has affected them, and of course, again, like I said before, if you can rate it on IMDb and give it a high rating on there and Amazon and whatnot. And there's not a lot of people voted on there, but the more fans that we have that support it, I think it lets other people who might, maybe I'll watch this. If it's got quite a bit of attention from ratings and whatnot, then it might make it worth. They might think it's more worthwhile to.
No, absolutely. And your YouTube channel now has your name. What's your YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's Off the Tracks Movie. So youtube.com/c/Off the Tracks Movie, and I do plan on adding stuff to that. I've got stuff queued up to add. I just need to take the time and do it. And instead of doing that today, I'm here talking to you, Richard.
Well, that's okay. This is more fun. Like you said, there wasn't much happening on Saturday. I wanted to test this new equipment out before. Well, first off, I wanted to test the difference between Facebook Live and YouTube Live. That's one
Yeah.
of the things I wanted to test, and I got some new software that I'm testing out. Some new. I'm always, I don't have like and my stuff is not like one package. Like when I got my first Mac, Pro Max put it together. They put the graphics card in, loaded up at the time Premiere for the Mac and stuff. This is all stuff I've been trying out, bits and pieces. I got 2 audio interfaces. I got HDMI, USB connections. I got different software that I'm using. Plugins for my audio interface, which I enjoy. I like plugins a lot. Compressors and stuff. EQs, legacy. But anyway, for Final Cut Pro, there's going to be Final Cut Pro stuff happening at NAB. We just don't know if there's going to be an official Apple presentation yet. There might be. Haven't given up hope that there's not going to be, but...
Well, we'll see. Either way, let's, I don't know, connect somehow while we're out there. Maybe set up some sort of, I don't know what the kids are using this day. We usually, what's that app? We use WhatsApp at the Creative Summit.
Yeah, I used that until they wanted my phone number, and I said, no, you're not getting my phone number. It's like Facebook always goes, give me your phone number so we can...
Well,
if you get logged out...
WhatsApp was bought by Facebook, right?
Right. I don't want them to have my phone number. I don't want Facebook to have it. I'm not saying they can't find it somewhere else, but no, you got enough information. I signed up in the days when you just needed an email account.
I sent you that blood sample. All right.
There you go. All righty. We're going to end up here, everybody. Thanks for joining up the Final Cut Pros Saturday Meetup. And we will be back again on Twitter. Are you not on Twitter, are you, Brad?
Oh.
So Facebook, how can people reach you there? Or you?
Well, you can go to the Off the Tracks Facebook page.
Okay, Off the Tracks.
Yeah.
Or offthetracksmovie.com.
Sure.
That's another place.
Or the YouTube channel.
channel.
Or you'll see me on Final Cut Pro 10 editors or posting on Final Cut Pro Radio.
Right. Just if you're at NAB and you see the Bradmobile and it's early in the morning, don't go knocking on the window. Okay, Brad sleeps late. Usually I have to give him coffee to get started first thing in the morning.
I don't drink coffee, Richard.
Oh. Well, whatever. A bagel. We'll see everybody later. We're going to log off here. We've been on here plenty of times, for plenty of hours. And we will talk to everybody later. I'm going to sign off.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, everyone.